Hey everybody, Mark here from 8 Minute Acts. So the other day I randomly just started playing the riff to the Michael Jackson song Beat It, and I thought to myself, what a cool riff, what a fun riff to play. Of course it's a classic, but it's also just a fun riff to play. So I started playing through a few dozen of the classic riffs that I know, and I compiled a list of the 8 coolest guitar riffs ever. One thing I love about this channel is that although many of you are guitarists, all of you are music lovers. So for you guitar players, please pull out your axe and play along, and for the rest, I hope you enjoy the coolness of each of these riffs. I'm going to play them in chronological order, from earliest to most recent. This is not a list of the best or most important riffs of all time, it's just my list of some of the coolest riffs that are equally fun to play for me. Before we get started, I do want to thank all of you who have subscribed to the channel. I really do appreciate it. For those of you that haven't subscribed yet, I hope you'll consider it. On your end, it's probably not a big deal, but on my end, it really means a lot, and I really do appreciate it. So again, I hope you'll consider it. Also, please hit the like button if you like the video, and I do respond to every single comment, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Anyway, enough about that. Let's jump into it. I'm going to play all the riffs on the telly and in standard tuning, switching guitars and dialing in the perfect tone for each riff kind of ruins the spontaneity of the whole idea. Okay, so the first riff is the Beatles' I Feel Fine. It was released on November 23rd, 1964, and it's famous for its use of feedback at the beginning. John happened to lean his Gibson acoustic electric J160 against an amplifier, and as was the case with a lot of the Beatles stuff, a combination of incredible skill and a little bit of luck, they got this amazing feedback tone. I tried my damnedest to replicate it, but I couldn't get it. But it's just an all-time classic riff, and it's a super fun riff to play. So here we go. Okay, number 2 is Funk 49 by the James Gang. It was released on March 25th, 1970, and it's on the James Gang Rides Again album. It's their second album. And Joe Walsh came up with the riff and just came up with some admittedly nonsensical lyrics, so he figured he would just call it the sequel to the song Funk 48, which was on the James Gang's first album. So again, just another really fun riff to play. So here we go. Okay, number 3 is Walk This Way by Aerosmith. It was released on September 8th, 1975 on the Toys in the Attic album. And Joe Perry came up with the riff, and a cool story about the lyrics to the song. So Joe and Steven were in New York City, and they went to see a movie on a break, and the movie was Young Frankenstein. And if you remember the scene where Igor says to Dr. Frankenstein, walk this way, it's a real funny scene. If you've never seen it, check it out. Anyway, they went home that night, and Steven wrote the lyrics to Walk This Way. So here we go. Okay, number 4 is actually another Joe Walsh riff. It was a riff that Joe Walsh used to use as a warm-up, and it's Life in the Fast Lane by the Eagles. It was released on the Hotel California album on December 8th, 1976. And again, Joe used it as a warm-up exercise, and Glenn Frey heard that and said, hey, don't forget that. We want to use that for a song, and became one of their classics. So. Okay, next is Crazy Train. Crazy Train was released on September 28th, 1980 on the Blizzard of Oz album. And interesting story here too, Greg Leon, who was Randy Rhoads' replacement in Quiet Riot, was listening to Swingtown by Steve Miller and said to Randy, hey, listen to what happens when you speed this up. It's a really cool riff. So supposedly that's how Randy came up with the riff, by speeding up the riff to Swingtown. I haven't tried it myself, but I'll probably check that out later on just to see if there's some validity to that. But anyway, here's Crazy Train. Okay, number 6 is the song that was the reason that I decided to shoot this video to begin with, and it's Beat It by Michael Jackson. It was released on November 30th, 1982 on the Thriller album. And interesting here too, I always thought that Eddie Van Halen played the riff. Obviously, most of us know that Eddie Van Halen played the classic guitar solo, but it's actually Steve Lukather from Toto, who was also a great session player in the late 70s and 80s, who came up with the riff and who plays it on the album. He played on a lot of Quincy Jones productions. He was kind of Quincy Jones's guy when it came to session guitar players. So here's Beat It. Okay, number 7 is also a riff that was originally a warm-up exercise. Slash had a string skipping exercise that he used to play, and that ended up becoming what is Sweet Child of Mine. It was released on July 21st, 1987 on the Appetite for Destruction album. And Slash hated the idea of using the riff for a song. He didn't see anything in it that was that great. Again, it was just a string skipping exercise that he used, but it did end up becoming Guns N' Roses' only #1 hit, so I'm sure he was happy with the final result. And here's Sweet Child of Mine. And lastly, I want to do something that was a little off the beaten path, so I went with a riff that I always love to play. It's a riff by Fish, and it's the song Stash. You may not know it. If you don't, check it out. It was released on February 18th, 1992 on Fish's Picture of Nectar album, and it's a really fun riff. And Trey Anastasio, the guitar player for Fish, was in a period where he was listening to a lot of classic jazz. He was listening to Miles and Coltrane, Monk, and Charlie Mingus. And he actually said he ripped off this song from the Charlie Mingus song Jump Monk. But it's a really fun riff, and there's a lot of cool riffs in it, and it's a really good example of how to use a half diminish and diminish tones and scales in a song to still make a really melodic and fun to listen to and fun to play song. So here's Stash. Okay, so that's all I've got. I'd love to hear what you guys come up with as well. I'm sure you all have very different opinions of what the coolest riffs are ever. It's a bold statement. Again, this is just my list. And please comment below and let me know some of the songs that you think I should have put on the list. And please take a moment to like and subscribe if you can. Again, I really do appreciate it. And most importantly, take care, and we'll see you in the next video.